Good afternoon, everybody. Beach House Guy here, live in one of my favorite natural parks in St. Pete. It's called Fort DeSoto. I love it because there's miles and miles of bike trails, of white sand. We're right on the Gulf of Mexico. Everybody goes fishing, kayaking right here. I've been coming down here for a little over 10 years, and it's one of my favorite respites. So I thought, what a perfect spot to record a video. Anyways, today we're going to chat a little bit about state of the economy in Tampa Bay, what's happening in the real estate market, what to expect. Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? We're going to go through all of those things with you. First of all, Tampa Bay has one of the largest increase in populations. People want to move here. They want to, post-pandemic, they want to be out and about. They want to be, everybody is technology efficient now. Everybody wants to be somewhere else. First of all, let's go over what's happening in Tampa Bay in general. Home prices have appreciated about 24% in the last year, and they will be increasing at least 20% over the next year or two, and we're going to see, and I don't see a downturn anytime soon. So let's talk the buy side for a second. The first thing that's important for buyers to realize is to embrace compromise. So when you're looking at a bunch of different properties, your spouse, your significant other, is going to have checklists. You have to look at both of those lists and say, this is important to me, this is not important to me, and then go through that together and decide. You're not going to get all 10 out of 10 of what you want on your list, and that's okay. We're seeing a lot today in this market of people, especially the millennial marketplace, of 2 people, 3 people, 4, cohabitating together and buying a piece of real estate together. That's happening more than you think of. For buyers, we're seeing a perfect storm in this market. So a lot of times buyers are getting very frustrated because they're losing out on transitions. As you know, it's all about demand and supply, and we are seeing such a huge increase in demand in properties, especially in the Tampa Bay market. We officially have now about a month and a half worth of real estate inventory to sell, when the average typical healthy real estate market is about 6 months. So if that kind of gives you a feel for what's happening, it's really true and happening today, and it's very frustrating, I know, for a lot of buyers who are out there. So for the buyers who are out there looking today to purchase, a couple things. First of all, get your pre-qualifications done. Make sure that all of your ducks in a row before you go looking with your broker or your realtor at different areas, because more often than not, there's 8 to 10 buyers for every property that's out there, and that can be very frustrating. I've been through it with a bunch of buyers today. So one thing you want to do is you want to embrace compromise. So if you're with your partner or significant other and you're buying a property together, keep in mind that you're not going to get all 10 out of 10 things that you want out of a home. Settle on the 7 to 9 that you do want. Another thing that very important is to put your best foot forward. And that's where a good professional like myself, I've been fortunate to be in this industry for about 25 years. And what I meant by ducks in a row, not only should you meet with a qualified mortgage professional to make sure that you're pre-qualified, but when you put together your offer letter, you want to make sure that there is little to no contingencies as possible. And what I mean by that, a lot of times people will want an inspection contingency. I absolutely would recommend doing an inspection, but cut the time period on that, and that'll make it more open. So many of the transactions that I've seen, especially in the last year and a half, have been very little inspection contingencies in cash. So when you're getting a mortgage and you're going against a cash transaction, you know, the seller mentally always thinks, oh, hey, I'm going to take the cash transaction. It's easy. I don't have to get a mortgage. But that's not necessarily true. If you're pre-qualified, you're ready to go, you have very little contingencies, i.e. the inspection contingency, the closing contingency, be open on your closing date if you can. You're more apt to get that deal. I also highly recommend, and I know there's 2 rules of thumb a lot of times with writing a personal buyer's letter to the seller, talking about the neighborhood, how you've always wanted to live in the neighborhood, your family, you have kids, whatever, you don't have kids, you want to retire, you have older folks moving in with you. It's tremendous how much that personal level, personal power means to the seller when they're looking at 8 to 10 transactions. By working with a professional agent, they can carefully craft the right offer so that you get that transaction and you get that home that you want. As a seller, in today's market, a couple of things you want to think about. Everybody thinks they can put their property on Zillow or Opendoor or one of the other competitors that are out there, who sometimes just literally have a 1-800 number that you're going to call into to place an offer. I would not recommend that. I've actually personally been through a lot of those transactions with these professionals where I ended up doing the majority of the transaction, and that's fine, but things sometimes don't get done because there's lack of communication, because there's 8 to 10 people involved with the party. If it's simply between a broker and a seller, it's a lot easier for the seller to understand and navigate through the whole process. Sellers today know that they have the upper hand. It's a seller's market, good and bad. The great part about that is, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're seeing 24% appreciation in homes. Sellers are getting more for their home than they ever have in the last 10 years. And what's interesting is I'm seeing a new trend where sellers are selling for top dollar their property and then they're renting. So selling and renting is one of the new hottest trends today. You know, do I think that's a good idea? I think for the short term, why not, if that's what they want to do, if they're not necessarily sure of what area they would like to be in. Another thing I'm going to mention for sellers, very important, is that you price correctly. A lot of times sellers in a true seller's market feel that they can get top dollar and they don't care and they're going to price it way above. The problem is if you have a mortgage still and you're going to sit with that mortgage because you know mentally that you've already said, hey, I'm going to move on to the next phase in my life. Fantastic. But also keep in mind that if you price it 20 to 30% over what the market will actually bear, the property is going to sit on the market and you'll have to keep paying costs. And especially if you had your eye, a lot of times I have sellers get very excited because they find a property they want to buy, and then there's sits for a while with other clients. So keep in mind, that's another very important factor when you're looking at selling in today's market.
Let Beach House Guy be your trusted advisor in paradise.